Hello everybody, my name is Craig Bennett, and today I'm going to get into a video, and this is a Q&A video, and it's a coding video. Now, as far as this goes, I'll be just talking now through the entire thing. I really won't be showing much, but as far as that goes, if you haven't subscribed already, subscribe, like, and whatnot. Also, feel free to subscribe to my coding channel if you're not already there, and subscribe to my main channel, my coding channel. I only show coding and networking stuff there. My main channel, it's a barrage of a lot of technical how-tos and business how-tos and whatnot. So as far as that goes, the question comes in as, what is a full stack developer? I'm going to get into what is a front-end developer, a back-end developer, a QA, and a full stack. I'm going to glance over a QA, but really focus on the others. So, in a nutshell, a full stack developer is a front-end developer and a back-end developer mixed together. A full stack developer is not, it's expected that they are proficient, but in reality, I've never seen a full stack developer that's actually proficient in both front end and back end. Usually it's that they are better at one than the other, but they can easily do both. They can easily switch and do both with little to no problem. It's kind of like a translator where they can go back and forth, go from one language to another. Where in this case, they're just going from understanding the graphic design, creativity, and stuff like that to go into pure logical and pure stuff for the back end. So as far as that goes, let's get into what is the front-end developer. A front-end developer is a developer that makes the user interface, the user graphical interface, or the user interface in general. Basically, what you see is what a front-end developer or a full stack, depending on the company, but what a front-end developer made. So as far as that goes, I'm using Windows, the just normal Windows as a example. And you might notice the buttons and all the other stuff. That's a front-end developer's job. Now notice the many workstations, Android Studio, Visual, and whatever. They all have stuff where you can just drag and drop buttons and stuff like that. But the thing is the front-end developer needs to be able to do more than just that. They need to be able to understand fonts. They need to be, depending on the job, they need to be able to understand some of the marketing stuff. And what I mean by marketing is just taking a look at this one site I got up. So I'm in a month or two, maybe sooner, maybe later, I'll be reviewing TubeBuddy. It's a YouTube thing. It's if you're not into YouTube, don't worry about it. But basically, YouTube is known to be more for a younger crowd. And on top of that, this is a more on website. For websites, what you would find more than not, curve, letters, stuff like that, nothing with spikes or whatever. That is a newer crowd, and plus that is better on websites and stuff like that. Fine. And that's as simple as that. If you're dealing with an older crowd, you can get away with a little bit of different fonts, but a newer crowd might notice something like, okay, the T's where it's curved or something like that instead of a flat, a T where all the T's are curved a little. That has to deal with the age group, the target age group, and also the platform. So this being a website, that's perfect on it. Whereas the if you're going for a different age group or platform, you'll use a different font. And that believe it or not can actually affect the overall review by some amount. So there's that, but then you got things like colors and logos and stuff like that. And the front-end developer, they basically need to be able to do graphic design. They need to be able to do animations. So example with graphic design is logos and stuff like that. But if you go to Windows, the start button, the little start icon, well, some front end developer, or given it's Microsoft, they can probably actually afford an individual person to do it, some actual graphic artist. But if the company is not large enough, or if the company just doesn't have independent graphic artists for this type of things, then it will be falling on the shoulders of the front end developer to make that design, to make that logo, to make that stuff. Sometimes the company or the front end developer, given that they're given a budget, which normally, if you get a good front end developer, not so much for startups, like for a brand new startup, but for something like Facebook, where it's been around for a while but still can't sell startup. Normally, a front end developer will get like a budget, and this is a work budget. This is not a budget that you just take home and do whatever, like remote jobs where you are expected to keep up to date and use it on equipment to do the job. Well, as far as the budget, it says, well, you can actually use this budget to hire a freelancer to make your graphics, stuff like that. So you might not have the best graphic artist as far as the front end developer, but there's a little bit of budget there, so that takes care of that. $10-20 to make your graphics for the thing, type of thing. I mean, it's very cheap type of stuff. But the graphic artist part of it is not the only major part. The animations, the tasks, that's also another thing. So as far as the animations, going back to the Windows, you might notice that if you hover over like the start button, it changes the actual color of the start on Windows 10, and also the highlight area, it changes. Same thing with anything else, like if you hover over, again with that website, hover over any of the menu things, they have a little change and look. Well, the thing is, that is the front end developer. That is their job. They deal with the animations. They deal with the actual looks and stuff like that. Now, here's the thing. This is where it gets iffy on if it's a front end or back end. Normally, whenever a task starts, so not saying full stack. Full stack's a different beast in itself on this. If it's a front end, back end development type of stuff, if a project comes available, what happens is you got a team lead there. They'll go ahead and get virtually or physically there. They will go through, and the team lead could be a front end, it could be a back end, or it could be just a manager. Well, what would end up happening is, as like say for example, the team lead will say the client needs this, and this, and this. Most of the time, the team lead will be able to do wireframes on their own. Sometimes they don't know how to, which is fine. You don't need a surgeon to understand programming. You just need to make sure that they understand surgery. Well, a team lead needs to understand how to lead a team, and if there's enough money, then that's great. If that's all they have to worry about. Well, the thing is the front end developer or team lead will do a wire design. In that way, the back end developers and the other front end developers and front end developer creating itself will actually understand what the actual overall project will look like and act like and stuff like that. So they'll throw up like a box and throw in small boxes in there. Say this button, this is what it will look like. This is the button. This is what the button will do. And the back-end developers will get in a discussion and they'll figure out something and go from there. So what will happen then is depending on the team lead, depending on the company, depending on the project, It's depending on how things work, but mostly what happens during the design phase is the front-end developers normally have the responsibility of making sure that the user has an easy time doing whatever task that they can. So one of the things is how many steps does it take to get a task done? Really, if it's more than 3, it's too many. Below's fine, but I mean, if it goes over 3, then okay, whatever. Just make sure it doesn't go too far beyond that, depending on the scenario and whatever. But like say for example, right here on Windows, if I want to open a program, given it's not on my taskbar, I can go down to start, so that's step 1, or finding the thing, I guess that's step 1, then and clicking at step 2, and then finding it step 3 and clicking at step 4, I guess. So it's not too far off, it's just one extra, but it depends on how you want to look at it. Some front-end developers will include, like myself, I would say finding where things are, unless if it's like right there, finding where the start button is, or finding where this thing is. That's considered as step 1 to me. But some front-end developers in some places, they say, per click or per actual action. So it really depends, but for the most part, you have most of the time the front-end developer is in control of the task because they're overall in control of the design, the layouts and stuff. Now, with that being in mind, if a something like Mass Effect, where I was given as an example in the last video on how it was horribly done, where some things you had 10 steps just to do something very basic. Well, sometimes that's not the front-end developer's fault. Sometimes the manager wants that. Sometimes it's the uppers that want that. Sometimes it's the back-end person that wants that. Sometimes it's something else. It's not always the front-end developer's fault. So if you see that problem, don't automatically blame the front-end developer, but just note that they're most of the time that is part of their job, is making sure that's easy as possible. It takes a few steps as possible, stuff of this nature. So as far as that goes, that's pretty much about it. Just basically, the front developer does graphics, does the layout, make sure spacing's right, make sure the font's right, make sure things are easily readable or understandable. Make sure there's not. One of the things is making sure that there isn't too much information on the screen, but also not too little information. Basically, the overall rule is making sure that you have the right information in front of you at the right time. And front-end developers, if you're thinking about getting front-end development, you obviously from this should know that you need to be a creative person. Otherwise, it's going to be just horrible for you. But the big thing is I'll advise you to learn things like Six Sigma or lean manufacturing or stuff like this. These are things I learned in the past, and it's actually helped me, especially like stuff like lean manufacturing. It's actually helped me in programming, because with lean manufacturing, same thing as Six Sigma, but lean manufacturing, they're basically the manufacturing line. Whenever you're developing, the person sees or deals with the thing as needed. You don't have too much on the shelf, you don't have too little on the shelf. It's as needed type of stuff. So, and there's science that goes behind that, actual science that goes behind it and all that stuff. Highly suggest that you check that out if you want to go into front development or just managing in particular. So as far as the back-end developer, what do they do? Well, everything else that the front-end developer doesn't do. That's simple as an answer to that. So whereas the front-end developer has to worry about graphics design, spacing, stuff of this nature, well, the back-end developer only has to worry about functionality. Specifically, does things work? Like as far as if it's like a communication device, is it able to communicate to something else? Let's say, for example, weather. Let's say, for example, this weather. So basically, what would end up happening? Front-end developer, what they do is they make sure that the lettering is the right size, the font's right size, the font's the right type, the font's right color, you got the right images and stuff like that, right? And in the backend developer, what would end up happening is they will make sure that the program has a refresh time. So every so many seconds, it will grab new information. It will go ahead and grab the proper information, stuff like that. So for this case, so the backend developer will need to understand stuff like RESTful API if it's in networking, OSI model. The backend developer will probably need to know RSA. The backend developer will need to know a whole slew of things, depending on what they're exactly doing as far as the job. The unfortunate thing is the depending on the project is going to massively depend on exactly what they need to know. The front-end developer, let's say that we're making an AI, great. A front-end developer only has to worry about the interface. The back-end developer has to worry about getting the AI to learn, getting the machine learning, machine vision, this, that, the other. I mean, it's just a ton and a half. And that's why most of the time the back-end developer gets paid slightly more. Most of the time they get paid the same, but when there is a difference, the back-end developer tends to get paid more, depending on how much they need one or the other. The company needs one or the other. But the back-end developer, in my opinion, gets the raw end of the deal. If you're into coding, but if you're not the creative type, if you're not into graphics design, if you're logical through and through, I would say back-end development is more for you. If you're creative type, if you want some leniency as far as what type of colors you want to use or this or that or the other, the front-end development's for you. If you don't care, then full stack. But the back-end development will make sure that everything is working right. And an example is so the front-end developer will worry about, like, say, for example, the rain icon, right? Well, the back-end developer will worry about getting it to say, oh, tonight it's going to rain, or pulling up the weather status for the time, right? Well, the front-end developer will need to make sure that, okay, if it says rain, then make sure it's showing rain and not snow or sun or whatever else. Make sure of that versus something else. That's important. An example, if a backend developer fails, is this other the weather map. Right now, the weather servers are down. I noticed that they go down at midnight all the way up to sometime in the morning. And let's say that there was a line that was off or something like that. Well, the front-end developer did their job. The back-end developer needs to get it where the images come up from the weather servers and stuff like that. So as far as that goes, that's an important thing to note, is that back-end developer normally has to know communications like APIs and stuff like that. That they got to understand that type of stuff. Fullstack developer, they do both. Again, in a perfect world, all employers are looking for someone with a doctor's degree with 40 years experience in the job and we're able to work for minimum wage if not volunteer for free. That's the perfect world for the employers. The reality is you have to get what you get. You just simply don't have any options. And you might be the best option. Well, the fact is full stack developers, while in the perfect world, you will get them proficient in both front and back end. In reality, that's not going to be the case at all. Usually they're more proficient in one than the other, or they're really proficient in one or the other. Like they're specialized, but they say they can do both. They can do both, but they suck at the other. Well, that's what you get. That's something that you got to understand. Now, full stack developers tend to get paid more, a lot more, because they do both. Sometimes they don't get paid more, so it really depends on the company itself. So note that. And basically, the way I view it is most people who goes into programming, at least one point in their life, they were a full stack developer. Normally, in the first part of your life of coding, you are developing your own application through and through. You're a full stack developer at that point. You did the user interface and the back end. So you did everything. Even though you might have sucked at one versus the other, you're full stack. And that's that. So congratulations. Now, as far as things goes, most companies, they will try to hire a full stack developer when they actually don't need it. What you'll find more than not is like a lot of startups and stuff. They'd be like, oh, we need a full stack developer, but really all they're looking for is like a front end or back end, or they just they can't afford it, so they just kind of cheap out on that. But what you need to do if you want to be an actual full stack developer, for me, I'm going to tell you right now, my opinion is if you're laying down $100,000 on the table, and I get paid currently less than $100,000 or whatever amount it may be, I'm going for that $100,000, given that I'm going for a job in the first place. Well, the thing is, that's me. I'm for the money, because I know in retirement, I don't, if I make it to retirement, I don't want to, I don't want to be in a place where I have to hope that I have enough money to just pay for food, that type of stuff. So as far as that goes, with you might be, I want to dead hold strong that you want to be a full stack developer. So if that's the case, apply for full stack developer positions. But when you get an interview, then ask, or offer for the interview, ask, is this job mostly front end, back end, or is it a mixture of both? The reason why it's important is a lot of startups, a lot of business people, they hear full stack developer. We need one of those, but they don't even know what it is. And that's the marketer's mentality, the PR mentality. We need one of those, but we don't even know what it is, type of thing. And the thing is if you say, okay, is it front end, back end, or both? And they should tell you right there. If it's a business person, you might not be able to get an answer right there. But if you're interviewing with a coding person, they should be able to tell you what you're majorly going to be playing with, or if not completely playing with. So just note that into itself. Red flags is if the pay is equal, or if they don't require a stupid amount of experience. So that's a big thing with full stack, is you normally require a very high amount of experience, but also that it comes with the payoff with the salary. So note that. Now, as far as that goes, you also have something called a QA, quality. So quality assurance. What QA does is basically they test to make sure all the parts are working. See, a front end, back end, full stack is expected to do all jobs. Front end developers expect to be full stack, back end expected to be full stack, but they might specialize only in that one thing or the other. But they also all above board are also expected to be able to do QA, quality assurance. QA is simply be able to run down the entire program, making sure everything works. Just like a chef, when they get done cooking, they taste things before they give it out to the people so they know it doesn't taste awful. Well, make sure that all the program works as best you can. Have other programs run into it so you can test the security, you can test the you can get logs and stuff like that. Do all that and come back with the information. A lot of time what would end up happening for a QA person is a lot of time if it's a major operation, if there's a specialized QA person, it's normally like a junior level position or something like that. Very low end, not that prestigious. Sometimes if it's important, you can get someone really worthwhile. So note that some QA positions, they're junior basically. Oh, give the new guy or give the intern the program so they can test it, type of thing. But sometimes it's an actual QA person. It's an actual, worthwhile, and they get paid worthwhile amounts of money. Sometimes, if the company simply doesn't have the money, or whatever it may be, maybe it's a startup, what would end up happening is as you get done with your section, so normally what will happen is on a project is the front end, back end developments, full stack, they'll have a meeting towards the start of the project. They'll do a design. They'll all get together, get back and forth. After the design phase, they will start building the actual program, and it's part of the life cycle of the program. Well, the thing is while they're building it, most places they'll have it where the front end, as they're developing stuff, the back end, they're adding code onto the buttons and stuff that's being created. Sometimes the back end be like, hey, I need you to, if you're front end, the back end will come up to you and say, hey, I need you to create this button for this area. And you might be new, like a student or just out of college or fairly new. In the back end, you might be like, well, I don't have this or that or whatever. In the back end, be like, if you get someone that's nice, which, if you're new, most people treat you fine, until you get like annoying. But they'll be like, oh, don't worry about it. Just have it up and running, as far as just have the program there. It doesn't have to be actually in a given place on the screen yet. Just have it there so they can actually, program for it. That they can actually put the functions into there. So as far as that goes, they'll get together, they'll code together and all that stuff. And what would end up happening is afterwards, normally one will get done before the other. Normally it's the front end developers will get done towards the very start. They'll get the layout, the general layout and whatever. They won't really fine polish it. They'll just get the general stuff. And they'll start QA. They'll start doing QA work right there. Then the back end developers will get then the front end will start finishing up on their stuff and polishing, putting better graphics or polishing stuff, however it needs to be, animations, whatever. And what would end up happening is the back ends become QA. Sometimes what happens is the back ends get done way early, and front end, everything's just waiting on them. Maybe they're doing animations, maybe they're doing graphics, maybe it's just adding whatever. But basically, normally whenever one gets done, if they're not taken to another project, which is rare. What would end up happening, or adding a project to their list, which is not rare. What would end up happening is the developer will do QA. They'll do testing, or the team lead will have them do full stack, help out the front end developers. Depending on what the front end developers are doing. Obviously, if you're a back end developer, you can say, "Hey, I don't know anything about Photoshop," and you do whatever. But if the boss still says, "Hey, you need to still help them out," well, congratulations, you're a new full stack developer. So as far as that goes, that's normally how things go. Sometimes you have an independent QA person. Sometimes it's one or the other. So it's all up in the air on that. Sometimes it's the EA people, the early access people. Sometimes, no joke, what you would do is you would actually label your crap as alpha. Maybe it's like a game or something. Throw it out there. People do the work for you. They pay to do the work for you. They go off and tell you what's wrong, or you use something like logs and stuff to find what's wrong, find crashes, find other problems, and normally listen to their complaints and develop around it. That's actually where things are going to some point, depending on if you're working for something like a bank or something, that's obviously never going to happen. But if you're working for something general like sports or whatever, then that's normally that's actually where things are going. Is you'll have EA access, and it's really up to your marketing and community manager and yourself, as a developer, given that you got permission to talk to the community. Believe it or not, some places don't allow that. Well, it's up to that to have a healthy community and be able to actually have good products coming out based on the feedback that you get from your users. So, anyways, as far as that goes, and figured I ran long enough, and figured I kind of am beating a dead horse now, and the dead horse is down to atoms now. That far beating. So, as far as that goes, if you got any questions, anything else, feel free to leave that in the comment section. Said before, leave a like, subscribe, share, and whatnot. But please feel free to check out my coding videos and whatnot, and also my other type of videos. And I'll see you next video. Hope you have a great day.